Well, happy Tuesday. Hope everybody is having a fantastic week. And we are back for my favorite highlight of my week every week, which is being here with all of you. And today I am super excited to introduce you to literally a super lawyer. How about that? Today I have the privilege of introducing you to Veronica Yu. Veronica is an employment lawyer. She is knocking it out of the park as a young millennial and really was just featured as a 2021 super lawyer. So I'm really thrilled to introduce you to her. She's very successful at what she does. And we're going to get to learn from her a little bit. So today, while we start, Veronica, if you'd like to say hello and maybe start off with the basics. What inspired you to become an attorney?
Hi, everyone. I am newly Veronica Yu Welsh. I just got married in December, so I'm still getting used to that and trying to figure that out. But as Leanne said, thank you so much for having me, Leanne. I'm an attorney, an employment attorney with Offit Kerman in Baltimore. We are a pretty large firm and offices from Charlotte to New York, but my home is in Baltimore. So what inspired me to be an attorney? That's probably something that starts from when I was very young. My dad is an attorney. He practices criminal defense litigation in the Bronx, New York. And so when I was younger, I used to go with him to work for daddy-daughter work day, which was my favorite. And I think there's just an appeal about the courtroom, the judge, the law office, the great suits and things like that. So I was attracted to the profession at a young age, but I did give it some thought. For a long time, I was debating between the law and psychology. And I actually was a psychology major at Boston College. And I think ultimately it was working with clients is what I really wanted to do. From a young age, I really like to listen to people and try to figure out their problems for better or worse. But as a profession, I think it's very rewarding. And ultimately, I lean towards the law. I remember the moment I was in a clinical psychology class, and I learned just from hearing the narrative of my professor that as a psychologist, you have to take a more passive approach to working with your clients and really let them come to their aha or breakthrough moment. And I just don't have the patience for that. And I want to help my clients immediately. And so being a lawyer spoke to me, and here we are. And I'm very happy to be in the profession that I'm in.
That's excellent. Yes, you definitely have a ton of energy. You're not a passive kind of girl, without a doubt. It's funny because, we have that in common. When I was a lawyer, I did employment law and discrimination law. But what's intriguing is, for me at least, something drove me to go into that area. You actually started in a different area of law. Mm-hmm. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, not only is it interesting how you made the shift, but I know that there are a lot of people who are going to see this conversation today, and they are maybe frustrated and wanting to make a shift, or maybe COVID is forcing them to alter what they're doing. So can you take a minute and share, how you went from where you were to where you are? And did you come across fear, anxiety? Did people tell you you're crazy? Share a little bit about that.
Sure. So a lot of people have the misconception that law school, like you pick your specialty when you're in law school, but you don't. It's really general. You take some core classes, you do internships, but you really get out of it and you need to find a job. And so a lot of people take the first job they can get, especially, within the past decade. That's certainly been the case since 2008, I think, is when everything really changed. So I took the first job that I got, which was working at a smaller firm in Bethesda doing insurance defense work. And that was really defending people who get into car accidents and working with the insurance companies. And I really loved the firm and working with the people there. But I think at every point in someone's career, you have to look around. Do you emulate anybody that you're working with? Do you see your career going in that direction? And if you're looking at the top dogs and that's not the career that you want, then you're probably not in the right place. So I, started applying to jobs that here and there that I saw in the Daily Record and, basic things like that. And I got an opportunity to go to a bigger firm in Baltimore. And the position was for products liability litigation, which what does that mean? In short, I was representing a chemical company dealing with asbestos claims that were filed against them. And, that has a whole history, and it's very convoluted and complex, but that decision was an easy one to make, really because it was financially driven. We have student loans and we have decisions like that to make. And as a young lawyer, you really, or anyone in the profession, you can't make a wrong move by exploring something new and getting new experience. So that was easy to make. It was hard to leave the people behind, but it was a great transition experience. And I worked there for almost 4 years, and I really, I was involved, but there came to be that point again where what's the next strategic move in my career? Am I going to be able to build a book of business marketing asbestos litigation? Am I going to be able to market purely litigation services, which means, when your client's sued and you have to represent them in a court or with a claim? People are settling a lot of cases now, not as much as going to litigation. And how do you cut your teeth being a litigation attorney when there's not that much litigation? And so I wanted to be strategic in picking the career that I wanted and how am I going to get there, and building upon what I've learned already. What do I like? What's the next step? And so I actually got a call from Offutt Kerman offering this employment position, and they were willing to, let me start doing that with the other skills that I had and learn employment law. That was probably, to this day, even with COVID and getting married in COVID, making the decision to go from this firm that I really admired and felt honored to be a part of, to go to a new firm, practice something new, and start all over at, I think that was at year 5 in my career. And I did have people say, "Oh, you can't leave the firm that you're at. Are you crazy? Don't you want to be partner one day?" All these other things, and my own anxiety, and it, I really had to self-reflect on it. I did a lot of journaling. I remember looking at, why do you want to leave this firm, for 3 hours, and coming up with, a really concise way of, explaining and capturing what I was feeling and why I wanted to make the move. And it took a lot of self-reflection. But ultimately, like I said before, is you can't really make a wrong move as long as you're going to continue to grow personally and professionally, and you have to shape the career that you want. And I think ultimately that's what I had to do, and a lot of stress and anxiety, but it was well worth it.
Well, it's great because, a lot of times people will settle for something that doesn't really make them happy because it's safe. And so, for you, I really, really acknowledge that you not only are bold and you would go do that, but you would do it at a time where you're not established yet, where you're, still trying to make your name. And that's awesome. And you seem very happy. So that's great news. Now, the other thing I was so excited about is, since we share a history of law, that you do something pretty awesome, well-rounded and unusual, and you're very into personal development and leadership, and you participate in a lawyer book club. I wish they had stuff like that when I was around practicing law. That is amazing. So tell me a little bit about that, what you get out of it, why you would recommend that kind of learning or that kind of book club or things like that for people, whether they're an attorney or not.
Yeah, I get a lot of, any adult doing a book club, you probably get some laughs, and people don't really understand what you're doing. But we have this, it actually started at work with a team of people that I work with, and they're actually construction lawyers. So, I dabble out of my employment realm, and they are very big on leadership and working on leadership skills. And so, and the eye is to how can we advance our group higher in the firm and move everybody forward. So it's a group of 4 attorneys and 1 paralegal, and we're at all different stages in our career. And we basically do a chapter every 2 weeks, and we sit down and talk about it. And right now we're reading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And once you start reading that, you're like, how have I waited this long to read it? And it's so enlightening and really makes you self-reflect and think about, am I doing this the right way? Or, there is no right way, but am I, being the best that I can be and putting my the best foot forward at work. And so you read it, you come up with your own little notes in the margins, and then you sit down with a group of people who are, you know, in a similar, the same profession in my case, but similar experiences. And it's amazing what different perspectives you get by talking with your colleagues. And where you might have seen the concept of the chapter one way, they can really help you see the other way. And you also learn more about each other. So it can build team camaraderie and loyalty, as well as working on yourself. So what was our last book we read? It's on my stand. The Ride of a Lifetime by Robert Iger, who is the CEO of Disney, maybe former CEO, but learning about his journey to such a high position, even it doesn't seem like it's law related, you know, it really helped. And I just think this is what smart people do, like proactive leaders. And, you know, I'm happy that this book club forces me to get some extra reading in besides my daily reading that I already do.
You are the coolest lawyer I've ever met. I got to tell you that. Now, the other thing that I think is really wild is your perspective. You're a young attorney, you're a millennial. And as much as I like to pretend I'm younger than I am, I'm definitely not a millennial. But, you know, this is a really interesting time. I mean, the world changed a lot in 2020 and the way everybody's doing business has shifted. But you're in a position where you're trying to build a client following, your book of business, et cetera, and the whole world shut down. But you've been extremely creative, and part of your, you know, the millennial generation is just insanely good at using technology and being creative. Would you share, because again, if someone's not a lawyer, but they're trying to drum up business, what are the things that you are doing to get your name out there and establish yourself during the wild year of 2020 and moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting because, you know, everybody's dealing with it. And while millennials might be more comfortable with some of the technology and, you know, the social media platforms, everyone kind of has to dip their toe in it at some point, because otherwise you're really late to the game. I mean, look what we're doing today, like how many people you can reach by using technology. So what we've been doing, and my firm generally is, they really do a lot of marketing in general and promote and encourage attorneys to do the same. So I had already been familiar with LinkedIn since I've been at the firm, but there was a skyrocket of people using and relying on LinkedIn once the pandemic hit. And so me and a couple of my colleagues started doing weekly COVID updates, you know, as it pertained to employment issues. For about 8 months, we did this. Yeah, and it was, you know, it took a lot out to plan and put forth the information that you want to do and present it your way and make sure you're putting out quality and substance so that, you know, people, that resonates with people when they're listening to you on LinkedIn and that you capture people that way. And so it was exhausting, but consistency is really important with LinkedIn. And so we retired that. That was called the Remote Rundown. And then I've recently started a series called Law Thought, and it's more authentic to me because I personally made it. And I think that's really important because it shows your potential client or someone that might want to work with you or refer you what you're about. And so Law Thought is really just something that a client asks me during that week, or something that another lawyer and I are talking about at the water cooler that I think would be helpful for a potential client to hear. And I just want to give it to them less than 5 minutes, whether it's a video, a blog, or a post, just something that they can keep you at the top of their minds and that you're not forgotten during this weird time at the pandemic, and that people see your face. I mean, you can scroll through 100 things and you might not resonate who that's linked to. So it is good to get your face out there and let people see what you do and, you know, how you communicate those things. I think that's really important. And I'll add, in addition to LinkedIn, I think this is a missed opportunity. At least I don't think I've fully taken advantage of it. Are these virtual happy hours? I know you want to cringe when you hear that.
No, bring it on. We're here to learn.
Yeah, no, I do. I mean, I kind of cringed for a while. I didn't want to go. I didn't know what to expect. You know, there's that fear of what's going to happen when I join the Zoom group or whatever. But it's awesome for people who don't like to schmooze because they automatically put you into a smaller group of people and you're on Zoom. And so you can clearly see each other's faces and it's easier to communicate that way. And you can make meaningful connections with more than one person in a short period of time. So I think now that people have gotten the hang of how Zoom works and how to do these breakout rooms, it's a great way to just, take an hour out of your day and maybe meet 3 or 4 people that you really connect with. So you have to get over your fear and, just do it. And I will say for LinkedIn, one of the things they say is don't be a lurker. So, if you don't like things or if you don't post content, I mean, you're not really getting the benefit of LinkedIn. And sometimes you have to overcome some anxiety with that too.
Yeah, it's definitely been a stretch for everybody, I think. 2019, you could probably count on your hands, how many people knew how to do Zoom. And what the heck
What is
happened?
Zoom?
Now life is Zoom, it's more, now you can count how many times you see a human being. It's really wild how much things have changed. But I do think in a lot of ways that, we'll never go back. The way you're using LinkedIn and the way people are doing these things, that's just going to become a way of life. That's really where it is. So one of the other things I thought was fascinating is you are a super lawyer and you are a young millennial. And there are certain industries where age is really honored and there's certain where there's issues with age. So, for example, if you take somebody who's got a business and they're not really great at social media and things like that, they'll tend to gravitate towards somebody who's young because there is an assumption, which is not necessarily correct, that a younger person will be cooler with technology, cooler with social media, et cetera. But as an attorney, there's actually discrimination against you for being young. And, I know if you are up against an attorney and they are 20 or 30 years older, there's some challenges. So, what is it like to walk into a courtroom like that? How do you deal with that? How do you show them who's boss? Talk a little bit about what that's like, because I think millennials face it in a lot of places.
Yeah, I mean, I think the right word is you're automatically underestimated. And you start at square one and you have to prove yourself every step of the way. Whereas someone with 30 years experience, they earn their stripes. They can walk in and the judge expects them to know what to do and what to say. And I'll just tell you a quick story. It was my first trial. I think it was probably my first year out of law school. And I walk in with all my papers. It was very paper heavy when I started. And opposing counsel had to have been practicing for 35 or 40 years. He knew the judge. You could tell this was just run of the mill. He does this every day. And, his voice didn't stammer at opening statements, but maybe mine did a little bit. But, preparation is key for that, spending the extra time to make sure that, you're prepared and you don't necessarily charge the client for that, but, rehearsing it while you're cooking dinner or, taking that extra time to be really prepared will help build that confidence. And, once the judge sees that you respect the courtroom, that you've done your due diligence to know how things operate, that you're citing, appropriate case law and really on top of your game, I think that age issue starts to go away. And they respect you for respecting the profession and being prepared. And I think that's, really important for anybody just to be as prepared as possible so that you're confident in what you're putting out there. And just by being prepared, you become more confident. And so, I think this is going to be an issue. I kind of have a baby face, I anticipate, even though I'll have been practicing, for over a decade, that I'll still be underestimated, especially as a woman.
Yeah.
And so, all you can do, I think, is in addition to being prepared, like make sure you have something valuable to add to the meeting, to the group, the lunch group, or whatever situation you're in, whether you're proving yourself to your colleagues or people outside of the firm or to your clients, that you have something to bring to the table that's useful for them. And they'll think of you. Oh, Veronica, she put out that law thought on employment policies. That really struck me to relook at my policies and get that in order. And they'll remember you. And I think it's just no matter what, I like to say, like, no matter what seat at the table you're at, we have in in lawyer jargon, we have first chair, second chair, and third, fourth, you go down the line. And wherever seat you're in, I think it's important to bring some value to the table and assist, the overall cause for what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, it's really amazing what you've done because, you've turned that into something that's really made you stand out. So sometimes being the underdog is an advantage. You get to be like a pool shark, as they say. That if people expect very little of you and you walk in and you really deliver, you stand out and they remember you. And I think that's really what you've done to stand out and be honored. And this isn't your first time honored as a super lawyer, correct?
Just to clarify, I'm a rising star.
Excuse me, rising star.
And this is my fourth year in that category. And yeah, I'm proud of it. It was such an honor to be on the magazine, photo shoot during COVID.
On the cover. Give yourself some credit here on the cover.
Yeah, and I got to meet some other great attorneys. And I think I actually was the youngest out of the bunch, which surprised me. So a lot of people doing good things. It was great to meet them and be a part of that.
It's very exciting. It's amazing to see that. And then I know the time goes by so fast every Tuesday. One of the things that is really amazing is while you're doing all this professionally and we're smack in the middle of COVID, you got married. First of all, just pulling off a wedding during a pandemic, you get a round of applause for that. But now you find yourself, and I know, maybe you'll share a little bit about what your husband does, what you do. How in the world do you do work-life balance? And for people who are newlyweds, this is very exciting, but for all of us, everyone's working from home. So there's not really a point where you leave, you get in your car and you go home anymore. And that means that work can just spill on endlessly and endlessly if you're not careful. So how do you have a wonderful, romantic, newlywed life and do this at the same time? So can you take a second and talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big topic. And at least even when I was in law school, health and wellness has been at the forefront of a lot of topics relating to the legal profession. And I'm sure all professions, because it is really important. But in the legal profession, we kind of laugh at it because, I guess it depends on what job you do, but if you work for a firm, it's almost impossible to have this work-life balance. And instead, we tend to call it work-life integration. It's not a 9 to 5. You're gonna, especially working from home remote, you might get 3 hours of good work in and then have to stop and do something else, whether it's marketing, whether these days it's being a caregiver to your children or your fur babies. There's always something else that you have to do. And so while your days and maybe someone can give me a tip, but I'm in the phase where I'm working really late every night, and exercise has kind of fallen off because at some point something has to give. But it's trying to work and make everything fit, not necessarily as you would traditionally think it used to be, where you work 9 to 5 and the rest of the night you have off. But I'm blessed and cursed at the same time. My husband is a DC police sergeant. So he works very long days, off hours, which I was just thinking about it yesterday. It's a blessing because I get to get a lot of work done. Otherwise, I'd want to be with him all the time. And so we really cherish those moments when he is home. But yeah, everyone's situation is different. And I think balancing that can be very difficult and stressful. And especially with the pandemic, I'm still not completely, up to on how do you work from home. I feel like every few months I learn a new tip that helps me get through the day more productively. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle. And I can only imagine for people who have children, how COVID has impacted them. So I think with the work-life integration theory, I know everyone wants to make a schedule and stick to it, but life happens and you have to, just work with it and find times to get everything done. And if that means sitting down and watching TV with a glass of wine to unwind or exercising to get yourself refreshed, I think you have to take the time to do that.
It is incredibly important. And it's funny because people who don't love their job while they're at home, they find themselves finding so many things to do other than work, you know. And then there are people who really are lit up by their career and they can't turn it off, you know. So being able to find that balance is remarkable. And on a funny note, I have a teenage son, and I had to train my family that on Tuesdays they are not allowed to come near my office, because when you have kids, they just walk in and, you know, do whatever. It is great. But I love that you managed to get a wedding pulled off in the middle of all this.
I planned 5, but you know, we got married.
And where did you go away for your honeymoon? How did that all work?
No, we didn't. And Terry actually had the time off, so at least we had him home for 2 weeks. Where we could just relax and in between me working, but the holiday season. So we got married right before Christmas. So it was really nice to have at least the end of the year to enjoy being married.
And hey, you know, it's like a staycation. You know, you can always do it. You can do a honeymoon again. There's no limit. Well, I'm really excited for you. And I know you did join into the group. So if people want to message you or anything, is that okay?
Yeah, I'm so delighted to be a part of this. And it's such a great mission statement. And your energy is great, Leanne. And, you know, I look forward to meeting more of you. Feel free to send me a message on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, it's been awesome to have you here. Congratulations on your personal and your professional success and all the things that you're doing. It's just amazing. And for everybody watching, Veronica is in the group, and I'll tag her below this so you can say hi to her if you would like to. And of course, we'll be back next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, and we'll be featuring a culture coach. You may say, what's a culture coach? Well, find out next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So thank you all for being here. Veronica, you are amazing. Thank you so much for the difference you're making for so many people as an attorney. I know that is a heck of a career to take on, and you are sharp and ambitious and hardworking, and you're a ton of fun and energy. So thank you so much. And everybody read that book she talked about in her book club too. All right, have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next Tuesday. And thank you again, Veronica. Take care.
Thank you.